What is up, guys? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to use NISSY to analyze your fewest moves attempts. So NISSY is in a lot of ways similar to Cube Explorer, but it has additional features that are especially useful if you use domino reduction for fewest move solving, which is the most relevant FMC method at the moment and probably will be for the foreseeable future. So once you've downloaded NISSY, I'm not going to teach you how to download it and stuff. If you want to get it and download it for yourself, you can just Google search NISSY Toronto, so NISSY TRONTO, and it should be the first result. You want to download it and you want to generate all of the tables, which you can just do by typing in gen and then hitting enter, which I'm not going to do because I have the tables. So there's no point in me doing that. So once you've done that and you reopen NISSY, it'll say something like this: welcome to NISSY, whatever the version is. Type commands for a list of commands. Just go ahead and do that. And this is all of the commands. So the main one I'm going to look at is steps. So we can just type in steps and it'll list all of the stuff that it can do for you. Now, the important ones that we're going to go over for the purposes of FMC are the EO ones. So EO for finding EOs that you may have missed, and then you can specify the axis. And yeah, so EO stuff, there's some DR stuff here as well. And then also you can specify DR without breaking EO. And then HTR. So those are the main things you can check. And then on top of that, you can also check optimal from once you have a DR solved, which isn't really a step. You just use the solve function for that, but that's the main one that I use when I'm analyzing my attempts, because as I do that, I can simultaneously see HTRs that I missed. So yeah, we'll just start doing some examples. I'm just going to grab a random scramble and show you how to find EOs from that scramble. So we'll go solve EO, and by doing this, it'll give you the shortest EO for that scramble on normal. And as you can see, it is 4 moves. That's one of the possible 4-move solutions. We could then try and solve EO on inverse, see what optimal is for inverse, and we can just use FMC style brackets around the scramble to do that. This is a very useful feature so that you don't have to manually invert moves some other way. And as you can see, optimal on inverse is also 4 moves. And then lastly, we could try solving EO with NISS, and you do that by doing that little dash capital N. And this will give you an optimal solution using NISS, so it could end up being on normal or inverse, or even a mix of the two if there is a NISS 3-move EO. And in this case, it looks like no matter what, the shortest EO you're going to get on this scramble is 4 moves. Now, another thing we can do on top of checking NISS or inverse or normal is we can look for how many EOs are within that move count. So we could try solve EO. And we know optimal is 4, so we're going to check M4. So this will be all of the 4 movers on normal. There's only 4, so kind of a bad scramble on that side at least. And then we can do the same for inverse if we want with the brackets. Or we could check for all of the EOs on this scramble using NISS that are 4 moves or less. So that would be solve EO dash N and then dash M4 and then the scramble. And as you can see, we have 4 on normal, we have 2 on inverse, and then we have 1 that is, I believe that's LDL, and then on normal, then L on inverse. So it'd be 1 move to 2 bad edges, and then switch from inverse to normal. And then obviously you can do that for 5-move EOs as well. However, that's going to fill up the entire screen, so I don't really want to fill this entire screen with EOs. So that's more or less how the EO function works. You can do the same for solving from EO to DR. Ideally, you would set up some sort of RZP, so it could be like 4C4E, 4C2E, 3C2E, etc. But I'm a bit lazy, so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to pick a random EO and just see what optimal is to go from that to DR on that side of the scramble. So we'll go solve DR, type the scramble, and then we'll just type one of these EOs. So let's go U, F prime, U2B. And as we can see here, it is 8 more moves to DR. However, that solution does not look terribly... Oh, maybe it is findable. It looks like it's just setting up to a 3C XE of some kind. And then obviously all the same functionality from before if you want to check inverse, etc., etc. So that's what the solve DR function looks like. I don't really use this too often because I'm pretty comfortable with my DR triggers, but if you want to know if your DR trigger was a dead end or not, you can use this feature. Now let's go into analyzing DRs, which is probably the main thing you'll want to use NISSY for. If you are practicing FMC at any level, you'll want to analyze optimal from your DR and see if it's findable. And I'm going to show you how I personally like to do this. So we're going to use the same scramble. So we're going to go solve, I'm going to put the scramble, and then I'm going to copy and paste the DR from this scramble. So I'm just using someone's random DR from Discord. So this was the EO they used, and this was the DR. So it'd be like that. And we could check ending with L prime or L, because with DRs you have 2 options if there's no NIS involved and 4 options if there are. So I'm actually just going to omit this L tone entirely, so it'll simultaneously check optimal from the DR starting with L and L prime this way. And as we can see, optimal is, in theory, a 12-move finish. However, it doesn't seem to follow a DR-like function. Like the first move should be some sort of L or L prime, and as we can see, it's a D move, which is quite far off track. So we're going to try solve M13 to see if there is a 12-move finish that is actually humanly findable. I have copy and pasted the wrong thing. That is very cringe. So we will copy and paste this. And there we go. As we can see, we have a bunch here that now actually start with an L turn, which is what we want. And we can see after that, all of the moves are within that DR move group. So we can see optimal from this DR is 12 moves. And by carefully looking at these sequences, we can see that some of these appear to be findable. So the second one, for example, is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 move HTR and inverse. It appears to be a 1-move setup to 2 quarter turn 4C4E, just the RU2R type trigger. And I imagine a good number of these are going to be based off that idea. Like, this appears to just be a widened version of that. And probably the same for some of these other ones as well. This one looks like something kind of goofy, but also potentially findable. It looks like it's doing 1 quarter turn instead of 3. I haven't actually looked at this DR, but it appears to be a 1 quarter turn DR, but with 1 quarter turn DRs, you often have to add 2 quarter turns to really get anywhere. But this one uses 1 quarter turn and then sets up to kind of an interesting HTR finish idea. So either way, for this DR, if you do happen to find it, then there are definitely humanly findable 12-move finishes from the DR. Looks like you could even start with L prime instead of L and potentially find something, so very flexible. However, let's just say for argument's sake that these don't seem humanly findable. Well, your analysis shouldn't necessarily stop here. What you could do is then go increase the move count by 1, so this will be 1 move worse than optimal. And it's going to spit out a lot of stuff, and there's a good chance that many of these will just be like inefficiently sliced versions of the findable one. So it might take the second solution listed, but replace like one of the D or D prime turns with like a D U2, which could be sliced out later. So you want to ignore those if you, for some reason, don't think they are humanly findable. This is probably going to sit here for a while, so I'm hoping I haven't just scuffed my video completely with dead air. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, quite a lot of 13 move finishes to choose from, and it looks like a good number of these use 1 quarter turn as well, or probably more towards the top. So this would be like where they start. And again, you'll have some of these that don't seem to be humanly findable. You can ignore those and maybe look at them later if you're curious, if there's some sort of like double slice reduction cancelling thing going on. So that's the main thing I use NISSY for personally. I use it for this, and I also use it usually, if I'm analyzing anything else, it'll be EOs, and I'll be seeing if there's any 4-move EOs that I missed. But obviously you can adjust the parameters to what you need to work on. And I guess the last thing I'll show you is how to analyze HTRs. So looking for like HTRs you missed doesn't necessarily mean that that HTR will lead to an optimal or close to optimal solution. But if you didn't find very many HTRs at all on a solve, then it can be a good thing to check. So we're going to go solve HTR. And for this, I do believe we need to check like adding that L or L prime turn, which is kind of annoying, but that's just the limitation of the program at the current moment. So we'll scroll back down. So solve HTR, we have that. So that's with L instead of L prime. And this will just solve HTR on normal eventually. And we just wait. And we wait. It should end up giving probably one of like these solutions as optimal. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. It'll probably be this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then that's a HTR type sequence. Okay, I forgot to hit enter. That's my bad. Great filming. So yeah, as you can see, that's optimal on normal. We could then go, turn that off. Same, but we will change the L to an L prime. And as you can see, that makes it 1 move worse, and also it now uses 3/4 turns. We'll now try solve HTR with NISS, starting with L, 6, and then could do NISS, L prime, and then there's an interesting NISS HTR where you do U on normal to give HTR minus 4 edges, and then you set up to the trigger. Although if you were going to do it, you'd probably do the U move as a D, because UR to L to U does 8C 4E instead of 0C 4E. And then I guess the last thing I'll show is just for example's sake. Let's say you want to see all of the 7-move HTRs for a given DR. I'm not going to show both L and L prime, just because it would take too long. Let's see how many 7-move HTRs there are for this. There are quite a lot. This is kind of an annoying thing about NISSY with how it analyzes HTRs at the moment. Basically, it doesn't filter out like things that are more or less redundant. So for example, these ones here, this could all pretty much be seen as just one HTR idea. Like you do F2U or F2D, which are functionally the same thing, and then you switch, you do an L2, and then you do the 4C2E trigger. And these are just the 4 ways you can slice it to give a slightly different E-slice, but the U and D leftovers will be the same. So that's kind of annoying, but if you want to analyze missed HTRs, with the way NISSY currently operates, you will have to kind of filter these sort of same cases. Like a lot of these 7 moves, you can see they're just doing like something inefficient, like this U prime D prime can obviously be replaced with a U2 or a D2 and then a different last 2 turns. Now there are a ton of more functions you can do with NISSY, but I figured for the purposes of this tutorial it would just be good to go over the stuff that I think is actually useful for anyone trying to improve their domino reduction and half-turn reduction abilities for FMC. So there you go, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.